Thank you very much. Senator Marshall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish we were here today to talk about Michigan football and Ohio State.
Me too.
But
Go Blue.
unfortunately, we have a real serious subject here. Chairman, thank you for joining us. Where we are with cryptocurrency today reminds me of where we were with nuclear physics in the late 1940s and the early 1950s. 2 weeks ago, a nuclear bomb went off in the financial world. We know that nuclear physics can be good, there can be bad from it, just like as we try to understand and think about the uses of digital currency, we all understand there's an upside to it, but there's definitely a downside to it. And where my question is with this is, number one, do you think that crypto should be held to the same standards as banking? And number two, even if we were to pass legislation today, I think it'll take 6 months to years to really get our hands around it. Do you ever consider that there should just be a pause in this cryptocurrency digital world until we get our arms around it?
Senator, thanks for the question. My concern is, and I've said this many times, as a market regulator, as someone who's observed these markets for years, going back to 2017, their growth, the intersection with the CFTC, I don't have the luxury to sit back. I think no matter what, whether it's in the US or offshore, these markets are going to exist. There's going to be participation by institutional and retail investors.
But you agree our arms are not around this. They're not close. Even with this legislation, would our arms be around the potential problems to the American public?
Fully, I would say probably not, but it would be a significant step and a significant improvement to provide disclosures,
do you think that crypto should be held to the same standard as a bank?
I think our banking and market regulations are sound. They've worked well, and they've proven to be efficient and effective. And as the DCCPA does, we should essentially model any regulation around crypto off of what has worked in the past.
What would be the impact on our nation's economy if digital replace the U.S. dollar as the world currency?
Senator, I don't know for sure, but given, obviously a lot of movement overseas by China and other countries, I think it's important, and I think you and I have had this discussion, the Federal Reserve is taking this very seriously and understanding that technology is going to disrupt a lot of things, including financial markets and financial systems and potentially our existing currency system. So at least investigating and seeing what the potential is and what the risks are is critically important for both our economy, our labor market, and potentially national security.
That's great. Segment to my questions about national security. I'm sure the other members of the dais would agree when we travel abroad and sit down with the national security officials, one of their, if not their first, their second concern is about how digital currency is being used. Specifically ransomware, $600 million paid in ransomware last year that we know of. That's certainly an underestimate. Anybody in the financial world understands the cyber attacks that are going on, and then how ransomware has basically sprung its own little economy that you have to purchase ransomware insurance now, $1,500 per $1 million of coverage on average. When we talk about human trafficking, drug trafficking, again, crypto is the major currency being used. How can we ever get our arms around that in those worlds when there's bad actors out there?
Senator, without some thought, and I will say Treasury does a fantastic job through FinCEN and OFAC doing what it can with what it has, but a more comprehensive regime and regulatory oversight over all of these markets, I think, would be a huge step in the right direction. We will never be able to comprehensively cover every element and fraud and people who are going to just intentionally break the law, but you're right, I agree with you. So much illicit activity is happening right now using this technology and these assets as the sort of foundation and base, but sitting back in my mind is not an option. We have to use every tool we have and create new tools.
So I agree with you, but I just don't see the tools yet. No one has shown me in a laboratory on paper what those tools look like. Again, this feels like a nuclear bomb is going off and we're not getting our arms around it. That's why we should be considering a pause. 90% of the dark web drug sales are done with cryptocurrency. Would you agree with me that cryptocurrency is a threat to our national security?
Potentially, it is a threat to our national security.
Potentially. I mean, we have 200 Americans dying every day from fentanyl poisoning, and I assume most of those the money laundering going on is done with crypto, human trafficking. I don't think it's theoretical. I think it's happening every day.
Senator, I don't know those statistics, but yes, if it is in fact true, then yes, it is a national security threat and is something that we have to take very seriously. But again, I don't see how we put a pause on it. From a U.S. perspective, we could try to ring fence the country from crypto, but it's going to exist offshore. We learned yesterday from the existing CEO of FTX that 2% of the customers' exposure were from the U.S. That's not supposed to happen, but somehow 2% of U.S. customers have exposure to FTX. Folks will find a way to get exposure to offshore entities or activities, even if it's prohibited in the U.S., and we have to do something about that.
Okay. This next one's more of a technical question. Under the current provisions of the Commodity Exchange Act and CFTC regulations, any bank or trust company in the U.S. is a good location for customer money, securities, and property. Senate Bill 4760, the Digital Commodities Consumer Protection Act pushed by FTX, restricts to insured depository institutions, insured credit unions, and any digital commodity platform. Would you support the expansion of good locations to include any bank or trust company? And if so, why or why not?
I think given what we've learned and what certainly what has happened in the past few weeks, we have to take a fresh look and to ensure that whatever happened at FTX cannot happen again, and that the DCCPA is tightened up to ensure that there are no holes and no gaps in the regulation, and that we ensure customer money is safe and that no illicit activity or fraud could occur.
Thank you so much, Chairman. It's a tough job, and whatever we need to do to put wind beneath your sails is what we need to be doing. Thank you so much. I yield back.